I was 7 years old when I first learned that some things in a child's room aren't meant to be played with. At that age, toys weren't just objects, they were alive. They had personalities, feelings, secrets. My stuffed animals held meetings when I was at school. My action figures planned battles on the carpet while I slept. And dolls were the quiet ones, the ones who watched and waited. I'd seen it in every cartoon, every storybook. Toys only moved when no one was looking. That was the rule, and I believed it with every fiber of my being. Our house was small but cozy, a single-story ranch-style place on the edge of a sleepy neighborhood where kids still played outside until the streetlights came on. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway, painted light blue with glow-in-the-dark stars stuck to the ceiling. The best part was the built-in closet that ran the full length of one wall, sliding wooden doors, always a little sticky, with shelves deep enough to hide entire armies of toys. On the highest shelf, just out of my normal reach, sat Emily. Emily was a gift from my Aunt Clara for my 7th birthday. Aunt Clara collected antiques, and Emily was her pride and joy before she passed her on to me. She was a porcelain doll, about 18 inches tall, with skin so smooth and white it looked unreal. Her cheeks had delicate pink circles painted on them, and her lips were a soft, permanent smile, the kind that never quite reached her eyes. Those eyes were large, made of painted glass, a deep ocean blue with tiny black flecks that caught the light and seemed to follow you around the room. Her hair was real human hair, Aunt Clara said, long jet-black strands tied with faded ribbons. She wore an old-fashioned white lace dress, yellowed slightly with age, with rows of tiny pearl buttons down the front and puffed sleeves that ended in more lace. Mom placed her on the top shelf the day I got her. "She'll watch over you," Mom said with a smile, "like a guardian angel." I beamed up at her, feeling proud. Emily was beautiful, elegant, special. I talked to her every day. I'd stand on my tiptoes and tell her about school, about the games I played, about the monsters under the bed that I was sure weren't real. She never answered, of course, but I swore sometimes her head tilted just a fraction, like she was listening. The night it happened was a Tuesday in early November. Rain hammered the roof like thousands of tiny fists, and thunder rolled in the distance. Dad was away on a business trip, 2 nights in another city, and Mom had a late shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. She wouldn't be home until after midnight. "You're a big boy now," she told me as she pulled on her coat. "Lock the door, eat the chicken nuggets in the freezer, bedtime by 9. She kissed my forehead, reminded me to call her work if anything scared me, and left. The second the front door closed, the house felt bigger, quieter. I loved it. I spent the evening like a king in his castle. I baked, microwaved, an entire tray of nuggets, dipped them in way too much ketchup, and watched 3 full-length animated movies back to back. I built a blanket fort in the living room and declared war on imaginary invaders. By 9:30, I was finally winding down, eyelids heavy. I turned off the TV, left a trail of toys across the floor, and shuffled to my room. The rain was louder back there, drumming against my window. I changed into my favorite pajamas, the ones with dinosaurs wearing astronaut helmets, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed. I left my nightlight on, a little rocket ship that glowed soft orange. I even said goodnight to Emily, standing on a chair to pat her porcelain hand. "Watch over me, okay?" I whispered. Then I slid under the covers and fell asleep to the sound of the storm. I woke up sometime after midnight. The room was dark except for the faint orange glow of the nightlight. Rain still poured outside, but something had pulled me out of sleep. A sound, soft, like fabric brushing against wood.
Rustle, rustle, coming from the closet. I lay perfectly still, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. The closet doors were closed. I always closed them. I hated when they were open at night. Rustle, thump. Something light had fallen inside. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a shoe I'd tossed in there earlier. Maybe the wind somehow got inside. Houses make noises. But then came the creak. One of the sliding doors eased open an inch, slowly, deliberately. I sat up in bed, clutching my blanket to my chest. The gap stayed there, a thin black line in the darkness. I whispered, "Hello?" My voice cracked. No answer. Then a soft giggle, high-pitched, childlike, but muffled like it came from deep inside the closet. My blood turned to ice. I pulled the covers over my head, heart pounding. I could hear it in my ears. I counted to 100, told myself I was dreaming, told myself dolls don't move. But then I heard footsteps, tiny ones, bare porcelain feet tapping lightly on the wooden floor of the closet. Tap, tap, tap. They emerged. I peeked out from under the blanket. Emily was standing at the foot of my bed. Her head was tilted slightly to one side, exactly the way it had been on the shelf. Her glass eyes reflected the nightlight like cold stars. Her little hands hung at her sides. She didn't move. She just stared. I screamed. I scrambled backward, crashing into the headboard, kicking the covers off. "Mom! Dad!" I yelled, even though I knew no one was home. Emily didn't react to the screaming. She took one slow step closer, then another. Her dress brushed the carpet with a whisper. "Play with me," she said. The voice was soft, sweet, like a little girl's, but her painted lips never moved. The words came from inside her somehow. I jumped out of bed and ran to the corner of the room, pressing my back against the wall, sobbing, "Go away! You're not real!" She stopped at the edge of the bed, tilted her head the other way. "I've been waiting," she whispered. "You never play with me anymore." I don't remember much after that, just screaming until my throat burned, hiding my face, praying. When I finally looked again, Emily was gone. The closet doors were closed. I didn't sleep. I peeked out from under the blanket. Emily was standing at the foot of my bed. Her head was tilted slightly to one side, exactly the way it had been on the shelf. Her glass eyes reflected the nightlight like cold stars. Her little hands hung at her sides. She didn't move. She just stared. I screamed. I scrambled backward, crashing into the headboard, kicking the covers off. "Mom! Dad!" I yelled, even though I knew no one was home. Emily didn't react to the screaming. She took one slow step closer, then another. Her dress brushed the carpet with a whisper. "Play with me," she said. The voice was soft, sweet, like a little girl's, but her painted lips never moved. The words came from inside her somehow. I jumped out of bed and ran to the corner of the room, pressing my back against the wall, sobbing, "Go away! You're not real!" She stopped at the edge of the bed, tilted her head the other way. "I've been waiting," she whispered. "You never play with me anymore." I don't remember much after that, just screaming until my throat burned, hiding my face, praying. When I finally looked again, Emily was gone. The closet doors were closed. I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner with my blanket wrapped around me until dawn, when the rain finally stopped and pale light crept through the curtains. Mom came home around 7, exhausted from her shift. She found me curled up on the floor, eyes red, voice hoarse. I tried to tell her. I pointed at the closet, begged her to look. She opened the doors gently. Everything was exactly as it should be. Shoes in a pile, toys on the lower shelves, Emily sitting perfectly on the top shelf, head forward, hands folded in her lap. Mom hugged me tight. It was just a nightmare, sweetheart, a really bad one. They threw Emily away 2 days later. Dad said porcelain dolls creep him out anyway. They wrapped her in newspaper and put her in the garbage bin at the curb. I watched from the window as the garbage truck took her away. I thought it was over, but it wasn't. Years later, long after we moved out of that house, I still hear it sometimes when I'm alone at night. That soft giggle, coming from inside a closet, any closet. And every once in a while, I'll wake up to find my bedroom closet door open just a crack, like something inside is waiting for me to fall back asleep. I don't keep dolls anymore. I don't keep anything with glass eyes, because deep down, I know she's still out there, waiting for the day I'm alone again, waiting for someone to finally play with her forever.